So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Andrew Neil attacks his former employer GB News.
What I didn't want it to become, I could see it was happening, which is why I left almost immediately, was an outlet for bizarre conspiracy theories or anti-vaxxers.
Yep, we saw anti-vaxxers.
Or basically the nutty end of politics. That's
Fox
not
News.
Which Fox News is, I say, very good in quotes at. And in America, there's a bigger market for that. There's no market in Britain beyond a hardcore of nutters. Am I allowed to say nutters? I just said nutters.
I think he's right there. I don't think in the US there's a lot more people, and I think there are a lot more. They are a lot more conservative people in the US as well, like in terms of percentage voters. So he is right there. When you look at the Democrat, the DNC, they would be, if they're in the UK, they would be seen as conservatives. So he is right there. So the two major parties in the US are, one is very far right, and the other one is centre right to right wing, really.
So is the outlook for GB News, as far as you're concerned, fairly gloomy? Not just because because they've got the model wrong.
I don't think necessarily they've got the model wrong. It's what they wanted it to be. Like if it's there to push conspiracies and stuff, which some of these conservative channels are, then it's doing its job perfectly fine. Which is it's there to prop up conservatism and right wing ideals. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make a profit or not.
I need to be careful what I say here because I'm quite surprised that GB News has survived as long as it is. And I'm even more surprised that it sold off Talk TV. I actually thought Talk TV might do real damage to GB News because it did have better production values. And it wasn't. So,
I mean, to be fair, GB News was propped up by money, though. It wasn't organic. It's not like the channel made a profit, I don't think. It was propped up by investors. That's the difference.
Conspiracy theory. It had a variety. Yeah, I think it did kind of lean to the right, but it had a variety of opinions, and they weren't all to the right. I think GB News has found, to my surprise, it's found a niche for itself, but it's not a very big niche, and it's not a niche that can ever be profitable. Now it is lost in, it started running in January of 2021, launched in June of 21, we're now coming up to June 24, so 3.5 years. It has lost over £90 million.
Oof. But again, it's not always about profitability. If you can push through conservative ideals, if you can push through these massive tax cuts or keeping taxes low or, not having better employment rights, attacking asylum seekers and migrants, which is what GB News is there to do, then it's doing its job perfectly well. Like I said, it's there to prop up kind of ERG type conservatives, in my opinion, and they are doing that. They've got bloody, conservative MPs on there interviewing other conservative MPs, and the regulator is absolutely terrified or incompetent and not doing anything. So GB News are actually doing its job well, depending on what you define as GB News' job.
And it lost more in year 2 than it lost in year 1. Whereas the original business model was to break even by year 3. I think I'm pretty safe in saying that won't happen. So if there's a bunch of people who want to carry on financing it because they like the ideology, well, that's up to them. But
that's what I mean. Like that's what will probably happen. And we go on to Ofcom.
So what we're doing today is tightening our guidance, making the whole industry really, just be even more aware of the need to take care if you've got a politician presenting a show within the rules, and particularly as the election comes up, the need to get this right.
Thinking of any channels in particular?
Well, look, there's been a lot of new channels coming onto our screens over the past few years, Talk TV, GB News, and they have, some of them been, well, all of them actually been innovating by bringing politicians in, and we have found GB...
But that's, you're just buying access at that point by hiring politicians. What job does a politician have as a political pundit? It's pointless. It's so stupid. Unless you're just trying to buy favour with them and, they'll bring on their Conservative MPs and you'll be able to get scoops and other things. That's the point of it. This argument from the chief executive of Ofcom is pathetic.
News in breach 11 times in the past year, and they are on notice that they need to improve their record, or that will lead to fines and sanctions in the future. But at the same time, it's really important that we do allow that creativity.
What
creativity? What are GB News doing that's so creative? How are they reinventing the wheel? I don't get it.
What options do you have when you say fines, etc.?
Well, we can and do fine broadcasters. It's not something we do very often. It's a severe step from Ofcom, and that's because freedom of expression and creativity.
This is like in fight spots where you get hit with 2 low blows and the referee's like, right, you do that one more time, we can take a point. It's like, okay, buddy, you've already fouled twice. Who cares at that point? This is literally that.
It's actually a really important part of what we're trying to uphold as well. We have a very broad and diverse landscape for news and current affairs.
Not really. Do we have a broad landscape for TV news? What centre-left broadcasters are there? What left-wing broadcasters are there? Really, the majority of them are centre-right to right-wing. You know, there's no left-wing version on TV of Talk TV or GB News. This is a ridiculous argument. It's not diverse at all.
In this country, which is actually the envy of many others. And that, I think, is because we've got flexibility, but we also do uphold those standards of impartiality and
This is garbage. What she's saying there is garbage. The idea of impartiality and all of these things. You're literally interviewing politicians. That's the highest levels of spin. That's not even like spinning things on their behalf. That's getting them to tell you the lies live and direct with no pushback. This is ridiculous, honestly. But anyways, let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully this lady will do better at her job.